This is episode 32 of the Hybrid Coaching Podcast. In this episode, we sourced questions over the past week from our audience, and today we are going to answer them. Let's make hybrid fitness work for you. How's it going today, JK?
Very well, Mr. Pericini. How are you?
I'm good. For all the listeners out there, this is the Hybrid Coaching Podcast. I am Anthony Pericini, and that is James Kelly.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, today we are going to do a listener Q&A. Asked about questions last week. We had multiple responses. I've distilled them down into basically 8 different questions. We'll see if we can get through all of them today or not. But before we get to that, JK, how was that workout you did earlier that you asked me to do this week?
Devil press.
Yeah.
Yeah, loved it. 6 rounds. It's 250 meter ski, 12 devil press, 250 meter row.
Yep.
I didn't find it. When I looked at it before doing it, I was like, okay, this is gonna hurt, but it was just one of these consistent grind workouts. I loved it. I love devil press. So it ended up getting a little bit tough, but I can't remember. I think I did it in 21 minutes maybe. But it was good. And then you did it maybe 2 days after I did it.
Yep. So for all the listeners out there, I'll program for JK, and then he'll pick out 1 or 2 workouts from his week that he tells me that I have to do.
Yep.
He just likes to see me get in there. And sometimes I always question, like, do you want me to just crush you in something? Because he'll put something that's like a 2 or 3 minute sprint of like a salt bike, and I'm like, okay, I know I can do that. But this week he gave me the 6 rounds of 250 meter ski, 12 devil's press, and 250 meter row, and I knew right away, okay, this ain't gonna be my week against them.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. When I chose that for you, I was like, I think I've got him on this one. But there was a few weeks prior where I've chosen workouts that like you blatantly smashed me in. Especially the power output ones.
Well, like, did this start with the 3-minute AMRAPs, 7 3-minute AMRAPs of like run 400 meters and then max? It was 2-minute AMRAPs, 7 2-minute AMRAPs, 400-meter run with max calories of ski erg in the remaining amount of
That's where
time.
we started, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
you smashed me on that.
I think I doubled your calories almost.
I think you did. Yeah. I think you did.
But we've had some good ones. You send me these good ones, and this week I was looking at it, I was like, if I really want it to hurt, maybe I can match what he did.
Yeah.
So I gave myself an out, and I went and did 15 minutes at 15% incline first. And then I just did the workout. Nice, easy pace. Didn't feel like killing myself.
I could tell when I sent it over, you weren't that be about it.
No, I wasn't jumping up and down.
No.
But yeah, you ended up beating me by about 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see what next week brings.
We'll see. You sent me another one, but I'm not gonna repeat that one. I'm not gonna do that one.
Yeah.
I've done it before. I've done it like 5 times in the past, and I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, no, that's not a nice one at all.
Yeah. The other one he sent me, everyone, was 20. It was a CrossFit open workout, 15.5, 27, 21, 15, 9 of rowing calories and thrusters. The thrusters were 95 pounds for men, 65 pounds for women. Oh, and the devil's press of that first workout was 35-pound dumbbells, two of them, uh, for men and 25 for women.
Yeah, so
All right.
fairly light. Yeah.
So those are our workouts from the week. Glad everybody can join us. We're going to jump into these questions that we have here. And the last one, well, the last two might be able to be its own episode. So we actually are going to leave it from for the end. But if there's, I kind of want to ask you it anyway and just hear your opinion on it beforehand. Uh, but all right, number one question was, JK, tell us about your race day nutrition advice. What is your best race day nutrition advice?
I think simply it's to not change what you normally um, eat, and especially, and it's not just race day, but the lead in, so the week of. I personally eat a lot more than what I normally eat 3 to 4 days out of a race, and then the same thing goes race day. It's just not changing what I've been eating. It's just eating more of it.
Right.
Um, that's my approach. I think if I wanted to dive into it a little bit more deeply, I make sure that I get a lot of carbs in as quickly as possible when I wake up. If I'm racing in at night, I'll want to feel as if I'm full and absorbing those carbs as early as possible during that day. To then kind of listen to my body by if I feel as if I am in need of more fuel, I just eat more. I just eat. I just eat. I just eat. Um, and it's just been intuitive of if you're thinking about food, you're probably in need of fuel. That's probably my recommendation.
Yeah, I like that. I'd say some my best advice for it is when I used to wrestle and now with everyone here, obviously nutrition's big. The number one thing with race day is don't eat anything exotic. Don't eat something that you haven't eaten before that you don't know how your body's going to react to. If you're, for example, not from Southeast Asia and you fly to Hong Kong, don't try the local cuisine for the first time in your life and
No,
see what happens like with your stomach, right? So basically keep it to what you know you're going to use or going to be able to tolerate well. And also carbs. You're about to expend a lot of energy and everything. Like you can eat your carbs that day. So
mm,
higher carb intake on race day, and don't go out of your way or eat something that you really haven't trained or practiced with. If you want to try
correct. Yeah,
something new, even if it's a new gel or a new supplement, try it in training first. Don't do it on
absolutely.
race day.
No, definitely not. Yeah, your body's so used to what you've been doing, and then it's not used to what it's not been doing, if that makes sense, right?
Yep.
So don't surprise your body and yeah, don't surprise your body by doing something different on race day.
Yeah, absolutely. You could run into a mess of trouble. Gastric distress.
Yes.
All right. Here's a question I wasn't sure I wanted to actually write down, but I'm going to ask you, and we can answer it still. Should I lose weight to compete?
Yeah. Um Again, I it's a well, how can I start this off? I don't want to say it's a touchy subject, but it's an individual um, subject, and also the answer is should be personal, individualized. I think that's the first thing I'll say. Um, should I lose weight to compete or to race, right? It depends. It depends on you. It depends on why as well. Um, but Anthony, I'll be honest with you, like I'll want to kind of preface that by saying, well, not necessarily, like no, like not no, like not necessarily. Again, it's hard because um for myself, and I think I'll answer it by just giving myself as the example. What I'm doing and training for what I'm doing and racing, I know the weight that I want to be at on race day. I know that. Um, I have times leading into a race where I want to feel a little bit more full. So I make sure that I'm potentially a little bit heavier, and that's okay in my eyes. There's been times as well where I've realized that I'm actually lighter than what I should, so I end up putting on weight. Um, so to kind of, to finish it off, it just depends. Like it really does depend, but I want to kind of just it it's not necessarily less weight equals faster in a hybrid athlete race, in a hybrid race. It's not that you don't necessarily have to think lighter equals faster.
I agree, especially because it's a hybrid race. I am not a proponent of lighter is faster. I think you should fuel to perform. So fuel yourself based on your performance. I don't think anybody racing should enter a competition in a caloric deficit either. Like you don't want to be in a deficit already at the start. You'll run into like low energy availability. You'll run into a whole host of problems, right? And you need enough fuel to do the race you're in. And
Definitely.
if you lose weight, if you're losing body fat, that's, probably good. Some body fat to get down, like you don't want to overdo it either. But in a healthy way, if you are working out enough and you are approaching the race as a performance, you're going to get your body into the shape it needs to be in to perform at its best.
Yeah.
And you should fuel your body to be in that shape, whatever that is for you.
And I think to sum that up, right, I'm not a nutritionist. Anthony, you're not a nutritionist, are you?
No, that was my response to this person too when they asked. I was like, I'm not a nutritionist or a dietitian.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll get into my own uh, relationship with food and how that was with wrestling on one of these, but
Yeah.
not, no, I do not pretend to be one either.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I'm saying this, guys. If you are thinking about trying to understand a little more, make sure you go seek a professional.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
All right. So the next question. I struggle visualizing what a double threshold day/week looks like. Can you explain it? Yes. This question is great. So my preferred, actually, well, JK, do you want to go over what your week looks like? Or do you want me
No,
to?
I think I'd actually like to hear your response first.
Okay. So barring all the other stuff we do, the way I set up our double threshold weeks, on the pro track and also in the programming that I do for anybody one to one, this is how I have a basis. It's just the foundation, the backbone of it, right? And then I add everything else around it to fill in what the total load of the week looks like. And we've gone over that in past episodes about programming, so I'm not going to get into it here. But basically, Monday is easy work. Usually 40, depending on where you're at too. Like whatever volume you're running at, it could be different, but it could be easy work, Monday, active recovery or easy zone two pace for 45 to 60 minutes. That would be the foundation portion there. Tuesday, depending on how I have the week set up, we'll just go with what I'm doing right now on the Pro Track. So Tuesday is also an easy day, usually 45 to 60 minutes. And afterwards, you run strides. So you'll run like 4 or 5 sets of 20 to 30-second strides. Preferably, sometimes at incline, but you can run them flat and fast too. So with as much rest as needed in between them. On Tuesday, we'll also sometimes change the easy, not necessarily change it. It's still an easy run for 45 to 60 minutes. I'll throw in a cut down or a surge that never really gets above LT1, right? So that'd be like the highest pace you get to, and then you're back down. So anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes of those within the run. Now, Wednesday would be your first threshold. In the AM session, you'd be running on the Pro Track. You would run, so something just for an example, 3 sets of 10 minutes on 2 minutes rest. That's after a 10 to 15 minute warm up and then a 10 to 15 minute cool down afterwards. So you do 10 to 15 minute warm up, 3 sets of 10 minutes at threshold pace with 2 minutes rest, then a 10 to 15 minute cool down after that. That would be the AM session or the AM monostructural portion. Your double on that day, the PM session, would be 5 minute warm up, 5 to 10 minute warm up of any machine you want or run or jogging, and then 3 sets of 5 minutes with 1 minute rest of your threshold pace on a ski erg or a rower. Pick one, use it the same machine for all 3 sets, and then a 5 to 10 minute cool down afterwards. So that would be threshold day number one, right?
Mhm.
Thursday, active recovery day. Usually doesn't include running. I would put, you know, 40 to 60 minutes, 40 to 75 minutes of machine work, swimming, hiking, whatever it is, whatever your uh, active recovery for that day is. Friday. Friday would be your second threshold, double threshold day. Very similar to the first one, but I like the shorter intervals in the morning now. So we did 3 by 10 on the first threshold day. So this morning session, we're going to do something like 7 by 5. So 10 to 15 minute warm up, 7 sets of 5 minute at threshold running pace with 1 minute of rest, and then 10 to 15 minute cool down. That's your AM session. PM would again be on the machines. It would be 5 to 10 minute warm up and then 7 sets of 2.5 minutes on the ski or the row at your threshold pace. Threshold pace on the machines, we usually select something closer to our 10K pace, our machine 10K, and it'd be 30 seconds rest on that, and then a 5 to 10 minute cool down. And then on Saturday, I like this as the longer easy run. So, for example, longer easy run would be like we're doing 40 to 60 minutes on the other days. So, the longer easy run, you're looking at like 65 to 85, 90 minutes. Sometimes we go up to 100 plus, but that's only when we're building something. So for the most part, we stay in that 75 to 90 minute range on this run. Easy pace with strides after, sometimes can include surges or cut down. And
Mm.
then on Sunday would be our strength running, which we'll actually get into strength running later, but that would be our strength running workout, along with if we wanted to add some higher paced machine work after that. And that gives you 3 quality days a week. A basic additional basic double threshold session, you actually don't have to have that Sunday stuff that we programmed. But
Mm.
JK, you obviously that sounds a little different from your week because your week is similar, except for it's kind of scrambled because your rest day is Sunday.
Yeah.
So you do things a little bit differently, but it still has that on and off, not necessarily off, on active recovery cycle, and then a 2 day break.
Yeah. I want to ask the question of why do we use the machines in the afternoons on those double threshold days? Why not running?
For load management, mostly,
Yeah.
impact loading, loading on your CNS. So we use the machines because you can get more done. That week that I just described too, if you were a pure runner, that might be the only thing you do all week is all those sessions I just described. And you
Yeah.
just do maybe an extra set or something on each of those. And you would do running
Yeah.
instead of machine work. So if you were a pure runner, that might be how you would set that up. We're not pure runners. We're runners with other tangential things and other fitness modalities, or we're gym goers that like to run. You're somewhere in the middle there. And so
Mm.
we don't just do only running. It's good you have to have that ability on the machines as well. So if you're able to capture all the running plus the machines, you're getting 10 out of the 16 stations covered with your base, right? And it's increasing your fitness. And then we only have to worry about the other things. And if you really think about it, the other things are smaller percentages too, because what are the two longest stations in a high rocks race or in a decafit race? Two longest stations
Mm.
are most of the time your machines. So
Mm.
you do all the running. Running is the highest percentage of the race, and then the machines are the second highest. So
Yeah.
we work on those.
Yeah. And it's so important to make sure that you understand that um the impact and the load is so crucial to not go too far. I've been able to build up a base of um, you know, a double threshold base pretty well now, but also, what Anthony just described, even myself and anyone has to just be careful of that impact of pounding the pavement, as I say to my athletes, because if you jump too far, if you jump up volume too too rapidly, that's you can uh have more risks of injuries and type of stuff with this type of structure of double thresholding.
Injuries, little whatever you want to call them, niggles, naggles, whatever, little things will start to crop up. So you really want to take the time to build. And people might think like, "Oh, JK, you increased really quickly. You've been 9 months. You got to think about like JK has been 9 months on the program, so like went his running increased steadily over that time. You don't look at it like, oh, a month from now or 2 months from now. An 8 week program can do a lot for you if you have a strong base, but if you take the time to build the base while building yourself up, the longer term outlook will always yield greater results.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, bigger picture.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add to the double threshold? What it looks like?
No, no. Let's leave it there because you've pretty much nailed it, and I'll just finish it off by saying it's a structure that has allowed me to build up my aerobic engine a lot not easier, but yeah, it's allowed me to build my aerobic engine as much as I have.
Yeah. So for you, you just did your threshold this past, what, yesterday for you. How you feeling?
Yeah, so I retested my thresholds yesterday. After I haven't technically tested for a little while. A couple of months ago, Anthony and I decided that my half marathon um, time was going to be my dictator of my threshold paces that we were going to use. And then I decided, or we decided to retest yesterday. So feeling good. It was tough. It was tougher than it's one of these tests where it starts off pretty easy, and then by the end of it, you're feeling it. So we got some good data though. I'm without knowing exactly, we've discussed this slightly quickly, but I'm a little bit nervous because I feel like we're gonna have to, well, we don't have to, but good nervous because I got some good data to know that I'm going to increase my threshold pace slightly. So that's
Yes.
what I'm
But
nervous about.
we're going to slowly ramp up to it as well. We're not just going to be like, oh, look, you're half a kilometer faster. We're going to jump right to it. That's not how it's going to go. You'll get,
Um,
you'll get
just
there.
what's the reason for not jumping to that?
I
Yeah, what's
mean,
the reason?
we could, but like with threshold, right? You have that was your snapshot of the day. We don't do threshold testing every single day. If we did, then we would be running based on what the lactate tells us instead of a pace.
Mm,
We're doing our
yeah,
pace based off of a single snapshot that we took on that day. So that's why I usually give you a range of, you're going to be this to this, and it's because I'm assuming unless it looks like might have been a really good day. So
yeah,
that would be upper end of the range. If it's not, then we go with the lower end of the range, right? You get all the benefit. The goal is to just not go over that. You get almost all of it by staying under, right?
mm,
What is this last little increment? It would be better to stay under that and lose this little increment of it than to go over and not be effective.
that's the biggest thing that I try to teach and coach my athletes, Anthony, is it's okay to run slower to actually end up running faster.
Yeah.
In your threshold, sorry, I'll preface that in your thresholds. I've had multiple sessions where my threshold in the past, I've been running them at a pace, and all of a sudden, they get too hard that I need to decrease the pace so that I can finish. And again, for the listeners, threshold isn't isn't all out. You shouldn't be feeling as if you have to mentally double down too much to get them done. They should be hard, they should be uncomfortable, but you should be able to get them done, as you've always said, Anthony, to a point where you could feel as if you could do two more sets afterwards. Um, so yeah, it's okay to to decrease the pace so that you finish the volume.
Hmm. Perfect. Okay. Uh, I had an analogy I could say there, but I don't know if it would make much sense. So let's go on to the next
Wait,
one. Let's,
now I want to know the
it
analogy.
was a number guessing thing. So for example, if I told you to pick a number between 50 and 100, and I told you I give you $1 million if you were within uh 25 on the low end or one or five on the high end, right?
Yeah,
If you're within 25 below my number or five above my number, and you have to pick this number, it's between 50 and 100. And if you get it right or within that range, I'll give you $1 million if you get it right
yeah,
on. Otherwise, I just give you the $1 million minus however many dollars you are away if you're within
yeah.
that range. You're not going to go be like, oh, I pick 100, right? Like, why would I
No.
go up there if that doesn't make any sense? I would try to err on the low side, you know? Which, by the way,
And
my number
so
would be. Go ahead.
yeah, so what you're saying there is like you'd be smart and just go, okay, for more chance of winning the money,
Yeah.
I'd go on the low side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd pick a number between 50 and 70 instead of between the other ones. you know,
Yeah,
because if you go above 70, you're definitely you risk losing a lot higher than if you stay below it.
exactly. Yeah. I like that analogy. I'm
I
glad
gotta
that you
refine
said
it
it.
a little bit. All right.
I liked it. I liked it.
Um, okay. The next question. Do you do core work every day? What exercises do you do for core work?
Oh man, I love my core work that you programmed me. And also, Anthony, like when was it? Maybe it was in my build to Hong Kong that I actually asked you if I could have more.
You asked me for
And the
more.
reason Yeah, I asked for more, and I think like no, not I think I know the reason why that is because like I love the feeling of just feeling so strong in the torso. And it's not only the torso, it's the glutes and the hips, the lower back. Um, so yeah, to me the core workouts that you program are one my favorite and two I don't want to say the most important, but because everything is important, but to me it is the most important because we use our core for everything that we do in a high rocks or a hybrid race. Um, so to answer the question, I don't do core every day, but in my eyes, I kind of do because you're using your core. Just an example, if you're back squatting, you're using your core when you're deadlifting, you're using your core when you're running, and you should be, right? But specific core workouts, I should know this. It's probably every other day, right? It's probably every second day. Or
Yeah, it's mostly, we'll do multiple days, like usually 2 or 3 days in a row, and then a day or two off, and then 2 or 3 days in a row. Like it'll be interspersed like that.
and the
So you
reason
usually
why
get
it's
5 to 6
interspersed
days
like
a
that
week.
is
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it's because it can be very CNS taxing, is that correct?
Depending on what it is, it could be, yeah. Like GHD sit-ups, they're going to tax your CNS. So when we talk
Yeah.
about core work, first thing, let's define what it is. I'm going to tell you my little mnemonic device for what is core work. It's anything from nipple to nuts. Okay. So
That's so good to know.
it's your
Nipple to nuts.
it's your intercostals, your obliques, your abs, your back erectors, your glutes, and your hip flexors mainly.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So that's what we talk about when we talk about our core exercises. And I do include the glutes in there because they're big movers and they should always get worked, you know? Um, so yeah, we do probably 5, sometimes 6 days a week of core work, but you got to imagine what are the core exercises. We do specific core exercises. I know we do like GHD sit-ups, you do V-ups, you do ab rollouts, you do Russian twists, suitcase holds. But we also do static things, Loading a heavy weight on your back is a core work.
Yeah.
So when you do your heavy squats, that's working your core. And that's factored in too. When you do a heavy deadlift, that is core work. All of your movements, the reason we do so much also between that area is because you need to have your movements, the most effective way is what's called core to extremity. The core should be what starts every movement. When you're rowing, when you're skiing, when you're running, when you're sled pushing, when you're sled pulling, when you're doing wall balls, when you're lunging, everything, the farmer carry, everything is starts in the core, works its way out. The stronger your core is, the stronger your midline is, the just the more stable you're going to be in every movement you do, which means when you actually do use your arms, when you use your legs, you have something to press against and press off of, right? You have a
Right. Yeah.
solid base to move from. So your core work, yeah, like you said, I mean, I just went over a few of the movements, but it's in everything. We do static holds. The more recently, what we've been adding is kettlebell goblet wall sits. Those are going to work your core. They're also going to
Yeah.
work your legs.
They were fantastic the other day, actually. And I really actually felt them. And I was thinking about that. So a kettlebell goblet wall sit, if you are listening and trying to visualize that, wall sit with a heavy kettlebell, or even it doesn't have to be a heavy kettlebell. making sure my lower back is on the wall, pressing it into the wall. So I'm um squeezing my torso. I really did feel it in in the core.
Yeah,
But again,
you are using your stabilizers for everything there.
yeah. Um the sorry, the core static holds of weighted planks or even just planks, weighted planks, and then my favorite, actually, I probably haven't told you this, is the Chinese plank.
Oh yeah.
I love the Chinese plank.
Yep.
I think they're great. Yeah.
I like Chinese plank. If anybody doesn't know what a Chinese plank is, you could look it up pretty easily, but you basically put your shoulders on a bench or something, and then your ankles on the other bench, and you try to hold flat parallel. So you're face up instead of face down in a plank. You're face up and you're squeezing your back rectors and your glutes mostly.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also like to include things like Nordic curls or glute ham
Mm.
raises in our core work because, like I said, we work our glutes with that, and then those also attack the hamstrings. But it keeps you very. You have to maintain a solid position there. So you're anything that's engaging the entire core to brace against is going to be considered part of your core work, and um, I really like it. Actually, one of my favorite pieces of core work that we haven't done in a while is to load up your back squat to above your 1 rep max and have you sit in the bottom of your squat and hold that with
Wow.
the weighted load because you have to be bracing, right? Otherwise, you're just going to dump it. And then when you're done, you just either get somebody to pick you up or you dump the weight
Yeah.
safely. Safely dump the weight. Don't go down there unless you know how to fail. You shouldn't
Yeah.
lift the weight unless you
Exactly.
know how to fail.
Yeah. I just quickly, my favorite core workouts are ones with a static hold, supersetting with a rotation.
Yeah,
So sorry, not necessarily a rotation, but a side
lateral core.
a lateral. So either a Russian twist or a suitcase or a single suitcase hold or a side plank, stuff like that. But supersetting a lateral to a static hold.
Yeah. All right. So somebody called in. They said they have prolapse disc. Prolapse disc for anybody. I've herniated multiple discs in my back before. Had to have surgery, so I'm very familiar with this. It's absolutely terrible. You can think of prolapse. You can think of herniated discs, bulging discs, all those types of things. So they want to know how do they incorporate swim work? And I don't think this was necessarily a question from specifically for the podcast, but they had asked me, I believe, on our platform, and I wanted to add this question to our Q&A because I thought it was pretty important. So, how would you integrate swimming work to someone?
I mean, I'll just be honest, I'd rather understand what you believe, Anthony, because I'm trying to think. And when you sent this over, I was like, okay, I'm trying to understand it myself. So what would you do?
So, if running is difficult, what would you do for swimming? So, swimming is a difficult thing because you can't always, a lot of people don't have the technique or the experience swimming that they can actually get to a an aerobic pace. They can't get past, zone two out of it. You don't have that ability, you're not basically a collegiate level swimmer or uh, even a high school level swimmer that can get to threshold pace swimming, you know. You would usually be anaerobic where you're just like flailing and trying to do work and spiking your lactate, or you're just going too slow for it to like really build. So
Yeah.
for a lot of people, swim work, you can replace your zone two work with it. It's fantastic though for somebody with a hurt back because you can float and it's almost decompression to your back, right? There's zero impact. So no impact loading. Even like if you talk about hierarchy of impact loading, you got, you know, running. Running is high impact. You have uh then like skiing and biking, and then you're rowing and you're skier, and then it's like way below that is swimming, because swimming is like zero impact on you. It's actually you're buoyant in the water, right? So it's like I said, it's decompressing for those areas. How would I incorporate swimming? I would incorporate it to take over my zone two work. I could also do it in some of the GPPs. Some of my favorite swim workouts we used to do where we go to the pool and be like, all right, for 20 minutes, we're going to swim 50 meters, do 10 push-ups, do 20 air squats, and then keep swimming. You don't, I know that I've given you some arm workouts before, JK, but you've never felt anything like dead arms and lats until you've done swimming and push-ups or swimming and burpees mixed together.
Right.
One of
Yeah.
the workouts I actually had in a competition one time, we used to do this frogman competition, which was really cool. You would do in and outs of the pool. So you'd get in, get out, get in, get out, stand up on the
Yeah.
deck, get in. But one of the workouts was 10 down to one by one. So with a 25-meter swim in between of push-ups. So you would do 10 push-ups, swim 25 meters, 9 push-ups, 25 meters, 8, 25, 7, all the way until you finish with one push-up and then swam to the finish line. That was one of the workouts. I'm pretty good at push-ups, and by the time I got to the fives, I was doing my push-ups in singles. I was like, oh,
Really?
like it was killing me.
Yeah. I would love to I would love you to program that for me. Um Georgie, my partner, uh comes from a swimming background. And it's fascinating watching her swim. She's so elegant in the water compared to myself. But I personally think I think we said it in the podcast just after Hong Kong, but due to my back issue before the Hong Kong race, I ended up jumping in the pool once or twice, I think, um, due to the fact that I couldn't do anything else, and just to go into the question, it's obviously really important to make sure if you do have the issues of back dips or anything like that, is understand that swimming could be a, a benefit to you. But again, like Anthony, it's probably making sure that you're not just seeking a profession as well, a professional as well.
Yeah. All right. Next question. I don't know how much time you have left, so this might be the last one we get to. What is a strength running session? JK's favorite
What
session of the week.
it is, like by far, um, I get nervous beforehand because they are tough, but I feel very accomplished afterwards. What's a strength running session? Any session that um, implements incline, um, and um, if you think about what an incline is, it's pretty much just resistance, right? Um, so a typical one of my typical actually I'll give you a one of the worst slash best strength running workouts that Anthony has programmed for me. And I had to double check, triple check the amount of sets. It was 6 sets. It was a 2 kilometer warm up jog. I swear it was six.
I don't I don't know. I don't
I
usually program over
swear
10K.
before Amsterdam, you programmed me 6 sets of 1K, 1,000 meter uphill run, 5% incline, tough pace, in brackets, should be feeling like 10K effort. with a 3 minute jog recovery in between. It could have been five or six sets of 5% incline hard running. Um, Loved, hated it at the same time. Um, and look, before you, Anthony, before you answer yourself, I personally think that is one of the reasons why I can um, finish a race pretty well, or my my paces from, let's just say, run 6, 7, and 8 doesn't change that much because I've been able to build up a lot of strength in and around my tendons and my calves and my feet because of the strength running that I do like once a week.
Yeah. So that's close. I think though I like those and I absolutely agree with everything you said there at the end about building up the strength in your tendons and your calves and everything. What is a strength running session to me? It's increased pace on an incline. So like you said, resistance. You're actually single leg strength building while doing it through running.
Mm.
You can do the incline however you want. You know, like I said earlier, I did 15%
Yeah.
incline for 15 minutes yesterday. That that's a strength running session. That can be, a hard pace at a high incline for some duration. Usually, I program about 7.5 to 10 kilometers. So when you said six, that seems like a lot because otherwise that would be over. Because I
Well,
usually say like, okay, you're gonna do um, maybe 10 sets or not even 10, maybe 8 sets of like 400 meters uphill, 400 meters jog back down,
yeah.
right? Because preferably you're doing it for these, if you could, you have a giant 1 kilometer or longer hill that's at a good incline. Not everybody has the perfect hill to be able to do it. So it turns into, we do it on the treadmill where you set it for an incline and then you jog flat for the equal distance that you're running uphill.
Yeah, and look, I think you're right. I think it was 5 sets, not six. And just for the listeners, I always do them on the treadmill. Why? Well, um, yeah, it's sometimes I think to myself, why am I doing it on a treadmill? Like this would be a little bit more enjoyable if I found a hill outside. But it's as simple as I put in the incline, I put in the pace, and I do it. But like it's either like you do it or you don't. Um, and I think that's the reason because it's so like there's no variables then, right? Um, but yeah, it's a very uh, for me, it's a very mental rewarding session after you get it done. You're like, wow, like I pushed there, I felt the lactate build up, and I got it done.
Yeah, I agree. Those are fun sessions. I like them. I like them when they're short. I like the short like 100 or
Oh
200
yeah,
meter runs because I'm just like, okay. I can do
I
like
think
my hard output, easy run. It's when there's not many, like you said, there's 4 or 5 sets when you have to do 1,000, but man, 4 minutes of uphill is always like, oh my God.
oh yeah, I've just had a look. I've got 400 meters sets on tomorrow on Saturday, so I'm excited for them because they're 90 seconds or
Yeah.
thereabouts.
See, those aren't so bad. And it's usually like 90 seconds of uphill, and then the downhill or flat jog is always like a little bit longer, so like 2+ minutes. So
Yeah,
I always enjoy those ones, but the longer ones those ones are dreadful.
yeah.
Okay. We have a couple more questions, but I think JK has to run soon. So just to wrap it up, I'm going to read these last two questions, and I think we're going to turn them into a their own podcast, possibly. But
Yep.
one of the listeners, JK, maybe you give us a little snippet here. Would love to hear JK's opinion on compromise running and whether it's actually a thing or
Ooh.
just a thrown around term.
Oh, mate, I think we'll have a podcast or two about this. It's my favorite thing to talk about. Um,
So just tell me, is it running? Is it compromise running, or is it just running? We all heard your interview
compromise
after
running,
Amsterdam.
listeners, compromise running is a myth. There is no such thing. There is no such thing. It's either you're doing the stations in a Hyrox race or you're either running. Now, let's just leave it there and we'll get into it a little bit more in a later episode.
Okay, let's do that. JK, where can everybody find you at?
On Instagram, guys, James Kelly. Love to get some feedback, love to get more questions from you. So thank you so much for the questions. What about you, Anthony?
So, guys, if you get the opportunity, please go like, subscribe, review to this podcast. It really helps us out, gets us out there to more people. We really love to be able to help people as much as we can, and you sharing it really does have that effect. So, if you like this episode, go ahead, give us a comment or review. If you didn't like it so much, maybe we wait to the next episode to rate it, and then we'll get to some more. But if you want to find me, I'm on Instagram at the Hybrid Engine or at a Wild Parasini. And yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to the Hybrid Coaching Podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.
See you in the next one.
Thank you for listening to the Hybrid Coaching Podcast. If you have any questions you'd like your hosts to answer, or if you'd like to reach out and ask us any questions or inquire about training, please reach out to James Kelly on Instagram at jk.jameskelly. That's jk.jameskelly on Instagram. Or you can find him, Georgie Vesley and James Kelly, on YouTube. You can also find me, Anthony Parasini, at The Hybrid Engine on Instagram or The Hybrid Engine on YouTube. Thank you again for listening and have a great day.